What I want you to do is I actually want you, I know some of you are still taking your seat. I want you to do your best you can do to look up. And I want you to whisper these words. We just sang these words. I want you to whisper these words. You're worthy of it all. Just go ahead and whisper those words. You're worthy of it all as you look up. And then say these words. You're on the throne. And then say, you're worthy of it all. Say, you're on the throne. Say, you're worthy of it all. You see, we want you to practice this week setting your eyes, looking up and setting your eyes on the throne. But we don't want that to just be something you practice this week and in this place. We want you to practice it next week and in whatever place, and the following week and whatever place. We really believe that one of the things that we need as a people is to build it into our lives, the rhythm, the habit, the discipline, the practice, the faith of looking up and setting our eyes on the throne. This morning we learned that when you feel alone, put your eyes on the throne. And Hebrews chapter 12 starts out that way. It says, actually, you're not alone. We learned this morning, you're not alone. There is a crowd of witnesses cheering you on. In fact, students, let me just remind you tonight, man, you have a number of sponsors around you in your group supporting you. And they would say this, they would say, you're not alone. Can you give them a hand of applause for bringing you to NYR? They are some of your greatest cheerleaders. And I know you have a church back at home. Some of you, this is true. Some of you have family members back at home, and they are cheering for you. Man, I love cheering for my kids, whether it's show choir with my daughter, sports with my other two kids, different activities they're in. My son runs cross country, and so we go out and we watch him run, and he's kind of okay. And so we go out and we watch him run. And I didn't know this about cross country because I played football, that when you watch cross country, you have to run around and cheer for people. It's like a sport as a spectator. Like you can't just get out your lazy camping chair or stadium chair and sit there and watch the sport. You got to run around. And I kind of like it because here's the thing. I actually love being able to run and follow my son and kind of catch up with him at different places and be able to cheer for him and say, man, you can do it. Keep going. You're almost there. I love that. And that's a bit of the sentiment from this morning. You are not alone. You have people cheering for you. Tonight, we have a different question. Here's the question. What is keeping you from running the race that God has called you to run? What's getting in your way? What's tripping you up? You see, you have people cheering for you. They're saying, you can keep going. You can do it. But man, there's some things in the way. There's some things in life. Here's our text. We've been in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. We're going to stay in this verse. We're going to keep unpacking it piece by piece. Hebrews 12, verse 1. If you see it, read it with me. It starts out this way. Therefore, say it with me. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that what? And the sin that so easily, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. We're going to talk about this little phrase right in the middle. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangled. Now, I don't know what would happen if my son in the middle of a cross-country race were to kind of revert back to boyhood and start just randomly in the middle of this race picking up things along the track. Could you kind of imagine this picture? If he's like, oh, a rock, he picks it up, puts it in his pocket, which the short shorts they wear don't have pockets, but he puts it in his pocket and he's running. And just like when he was a little kid going on hikes with me, he's like, oh, look at that stick. That'd make a great walking stick. He picks up the walking stick and I have a picture of him dragging the walking stick behind him as we're hiking. I'm like, come on already. And he's drawing a line with this stick in the dirt. Could you imagine he's picking this up? He's like, a flower. Look at that flower. And he picks up the flower. Could you imagine? I know it sounds crazy, but could you imagine what would be the reaction of the people cheering him on? Right? They're like, what's the deal, man? Come on. What are you doing? He has an intense coach. And this coach, I can imagine. He has a nickname for it. I can imagine what this coach and how he'd react. He would put it down and run, go. And I just want to say tonight, Some of the people cheering you on, it might even be from the very throne itself. The heartbeat of Hebrews might be watching you run. It might see some of the distractions of some of the things getting in your way. And some of the heartbeat of this text is saying this: put it down and run. We don't have time for some of those distractions. Some of those things are getting in your way. I love the first phrase. Here's the first phrase we're going to start with: throw it off. I love the phrase, throw it off. The phrase has the connotation of like setting something aside, tossing something down, but I love the dramatic way that this particular translation has translated it. Like it's very intentional, isn't it? Like set aside is kind of like, okay, right? My son's running with all these things, and he's like, okay, I guess I'll sit down the walking stick. No, it's like, this is not something I need, and he throws it to the side. So I love that translation. It's active. It's not on accident. It's a decision that you need to make. Let me tell you, at the end of tonight, we're going to challenge you to make some decisions. We're not going to be shy about that. This is an active decision to throw some things off. So my question, again, I'll repeat it a few times, is this: what are some things you need to throw off so that you can run the race God has created you to run? Several years ago, I ran in my first half marathon. It was almost my last half marathon as well. And I remember when I started running, I just knew I was going to survive it. They had you fill out the bib, and you had to put your name on the back, and I felt like it was a dog tag in case they found me dead on the side of the road. They delivered me to my wife, and they're like, here he is, right? And so I knew this about this race, that for me to survive this race, to run this race effectively, there were some things I was going to need to like throw to the side, put off. One of them is like Tabasco Cheez-Its. I knew that I could not eat the amount of Tabasco Cheez-Its that I was eating and finish this half marathon. Some of you apparently Tabasco Cheez-It fans. All right, so I knew there's some things I was going to need to throw off, but here's actually where I want to go with this. About a mile into the race, something happened in the race that surprised me. Now, if you've not run in a race, like some of you are like expert professional runners in this. I played football. I was a lineman and a defensive end. Running in me was what we got when we got in trouble, okay? So picture a crowd this size. We're all going to run half marathon together, and picture me, I'm like at the back of the pack at this point. And so all of these people in the front, they've already gone beyond me, and I'm kind of back there already sucking air at a mile in. And here's what surprised me. A mile in, I started noticing like clothing items, hoodies, jackets, like zipper pants, gloves, like caps. I started noticing these like things littering these items littering the side of the road. And this was like piled up. And I'm like, this is really weird. But those of you who are like professional runners, you know what's happening. Like before they started running the race, these are the things that they were wearing. But really, to run the race effectively, to not be hindered and held back, to not be overheated, they needed to let go of some things, to literally throw some things to the side of the road and leave them there. In case you're worried, like they donated those to charity. They didn't get them back. They were gone. Here's what, can you imagine this? Here's what I want. I actually think this is what this text is calling us to. Imagine this valley at the end of the week, littered not with the lost and found items y'all leave, because y'all leave plenty of that too. Not, the trash is already here from y'all. But imagine it littered with some of the distractions and some of the hindrances and some of the sins that we've been carrying, that have been getting in our way and keeping us from running. And like a mile into that race, if some of you here at this point, at this mile marker, this moment in your race, you're like, I'm tired of carrying this. It's getting in my way. I'm throwing it to the side. I would love if this valley spiritually was littered with these kinds of things that we say, I'm leaving it in the valley. I'm not taking it home. I'm running the race that Jesus has designed me to run. Man, I love that about this verse. And there's two categories, two things that Hebrews calls us to throw off. Say throw off with me. So the first category is this. It says this: throw off everything that hinders. Throw off everything that hinders. Now, literally, this metaphor in the ancient world was talking about clothing. Now, awkward, but let me go there with you. Ancient world, they're wearing what? Robes, togas. You kind of got the picture, right? So not exactly ideal running wear, right? Show up to a race. Some of you do at those weird 5Ks wearing a toga. And you realize that that toga, that robe is going to get in your way. It's going to hinder. So in the ancient world, they would gird up. That's what they would call it. That's kind of how we understood it. They would gird up that toga and run. But you know in the Olympics what they actually did? You know this. They would literally just throw it off. And by throw it off, I mean like, all of it off, right? They would run, let's just say, unhindered. Let's put it that way. Now, let's get honest. Some of those like boys running shorts they're wearing these days is not very far off from that, okay? So here's the dynamic of this, is that this is what this passage is calling us to do spiritually. It just said, hey, there's some things in your way holding you back, hindering you, keeping you from running at the pace you ought to be running. And these are some things that you ought to throw off. Now, let me put it a few ways just to make sure it's tangible that you're like clicking with it, okay? If you checked out, check back in. Some of you have that person in your group coming to NYR who overpacked. Some of you have that person. Like, I don't know who in your group has the largest suitcase, but they're the kind of person who like, some of you already, I see some of the sponsors' faces, and they're like, it was me, I confess, right? I'm not asking for that confession tonight. So when it comes to this suitcase, you had to like unzip that zipper that gives you a gap and extra space. You know what I'm talking about? It's like the overweight suitcase zipper, right? It's like just in case your suitcase gets too fat, it actually has an extra size on it. It becomes extra, extra large. And not only did they have to unzip that, they tilted it up, and then they unzipped the top, just the gap, because everything might pop out, but just the gap. And then they were able to like shove other things down. Some of you did this. I can see this from your face. Shove other things down in here. Then you got up to camp, and your sponsor said, I need you to carry that to your tent, right? You there with me? And some of you, I watched you the first day because I knew I was going to be saying this. Some of you were carrying that suitcase to your tent. You're like, right? All the way up the mountain. And then you're like, some of you are like, can you carry this for me, right? It's like that thing. Here's the thing. Some of you, this is how you run through life. In fact, it's not just your fault. Sometimes our family, our culture, kind of just the ethos, the vibe of our time is to shove as much in as possible. And then we wonder why we're not able to run very effective. Like some of these things are actually not bad things. They're actually good things. But when you shove too many good things in, it really can hinder you from running the kind of race you're called to run. Let me give you kind of another example. A few months ago, there was a gentleman who had a Chevy Blazer. Now, this is an older Chevy Blazer, and he was pulling a double-wide trailer. Maybe you saw this in the news. It went viral, right? And I'm not talking about like a camper. I'm not talking about even like a fairly large, I'm talking about a double-wide, I'm talking about a house. And this, you can see the Chevy Blazer, it's driving, right? And the back end is scraping the back of the ground. And there's onlookers, everyone's amazed at this guy. Like some of you with mullets, this is you, right? And so they're looking at this guy and they're like, this is amazing, he's our hero, right? And they're expecting like fireworks to shoot off the back or something, I don't know. And so here's this video, but you know what happened? His Blazer died. Like the engine went out. He burned out his engine. At some point, the check engine light went off, if that actually worked. And he burned out his motor. He had to go get a tow truck to actually finish the job. Now, some of you, indicator lights are going off all over in your life. It's worry, it's stress, it's the burden of this, it's a feeling of overwhelm, it's a feeling of dread. You're that person carrying the suitcase. You're the person who's carrying that trailer. And this text would say, there are some things that are good things, but they are hindrances right now. And I know I can go lots of different places with this. Maybe the easiest place for a preacher like me to take a shot at you today. And it's not just a shot at you students. It's a shot at you adults. It's a shot at me. Would to say sometimes that overloaded suitcase, that's actually your phone in your pocket, right? And that phone in your pocket causes you some of the distractions that we're talking about tonight. It might not be a bad thing, but it's definitely a burden. It's a distraction that keeps you from the main thing, keeps you from putting your eyes on the throne, keeps you from abiding in Jesus. So you chase after a real rather than chasing after the real one who wants you to abide in him. Like it's one of those things where all of a sudden you're caught up in image and anxiety over who you are in comparison with other people rather than actually being set free in Jesus because of who he says you are. And I don't know, and I'm not going to blame it on your phone. I'm just going to say that one of the things that is a hindrance, one of the things that we have, sometimes we walk around kind of like this with that burden that we keep checking and we keep in our life. And I'm not saying the phone's bad. I'm just saying, hey, let's evaluate it, because maybe there's some things we need to throw off. Let me give you a few examples, because you might be like, well, that's kind of cliche. That's the typical thing. But what about just our pursuit for more? And this is our pursuit for more. Like, we run after more, right? We want more stuff. We want more success. We want more money. We put it in a double-wide trailer. We put it behind the car. We want more followers. We want more likes. We want more experiences. We want more vacations. We want more validation. We want more applause. And because we want more and we want to pile up more, it just hinders us in our run. I don't know. Talking to a few of you, this is what you would identify. You'd say, this is me. It's more commitments and activities that get in the way. It's, hey, I'm so committed to my sport. I'm so committed to my art. I'm so committed to my activity. I'm so committed to this thing that I don't have time to put Jesus first. And hindrances are sometimes when we put other things first other than the thing that should be first. And I think some of you as students recognize this could be your job. This could be earning money. This could be some sort of applause, that we put good things into the place where God should be. And sometimes the good things are keeping us from the best thing. There's a story that gets at this in the Bible. It's found in Luke chapter 10. Jesus encounters two sisters. Their names are Mary and Martha. You may or may not know this story, but Jesus comes into their home. Now, he kind of invites himself over. Could you imagine Jesus is here at NYR, and he says, hey, I'm coming to your campsite tonight to eat. Could you imagine what that would do to your camp cook staff? They'd be like, oh, man, right? And Jesus comes over, and he comes over to their house, and Mary sits down at Jesus' feet. Kind of hear our theme, eyes on the throne? Jesus is teaching, and she knows she has the opportunity to listen to Jesus. So she's there at his feet. But that's not what's true of Martha. Martha, the text says, she's distracted. In fact, Jesus says to her, because she gets upset, like, tell my sister to help me. She bosses Jesus around. It's kind of an interesting thing. Like, she almost acts like she should be on the throne in this moment. And this is what worry and overburdened and hindrance, this is what it does to us, is we actually get kind of bitter. It's like, tell my sister to help me. And I love what Jesus says. He says, Martha, Martha. He says her name. Now, when Jesus says names twice, like Jerusalem, Jerusalem, oftentimes it's a double use of the name as an act of compassion, that what he's going to say next are words of compassion. Martha, Martha. I love what he says to her. And maybe it's because I feel like he says it to me, right? You're worried and you're upset about many things. I don't know if Jesus would say the same thing to you. I don't know all of your names, but maybe you could just put your name there. Martha, Martha. Say your name kind of in your head twice. You're worried and you're upset about many things, hindrances. They're getting in the way from you running the race. They're keeping you from sitting at the feet of Jesus. And he says this, but few things are needed. Can you do me a favor? Make sure you're with me. Can you take just a deep breath? Let it out. That's what this verse does to me. You're picking up so many things along the road and carrying them with you, and you're hindered by this. Can I set you free, Jesus says to Martha? Few things are needed. Set some of these things down. They're not the main thing. And you're missing the main thing because you're carrying these things. Few things are needed. In fact, what he says to Martha, he says, indeed, only one, and Mary has chosen the better. Can you say better? Say it again. Say better. When it comes to the things that entangle us, when it comes to the things that hinder us, when it comes to the thing that hinder us, Jesus is actually asking us to make a better choice. To set some of those things down, to run toward that which is better. Now, we've talked about those things that hinder. Let me talk about the second category out of Hebrews chapter 12. We are also called not just to throw off the things that hinder us, we're also called to throw off the things that entangle us. So remember, these are the two categories, hinder and entangle. Say the word entangle. Say the word hinder. Say the word entangle. I know it's getting late. All right, entangle. So this idea of entanglement, it's a little bit different. Notice in Hebrews what it says is sin is actually what entangles us. It's not kind of just anything that might be good and just getting busy or other things that are distractions, but this time it's actually like sin that traps us. So let me kind of give you a few examples to get at this. You ever been walking or running? I'm not going to assume everyone loves to run, so let's just go with walking or sauntering, right? Have you ever been sauntering through the woods? And maybe it's in the dark, maybe it's not, but you accidentally walk through a spider web? Have you ever had this happen? Okay, I'm not alone in this. I've seen a few faces down here, okay? So you've ever walked through the woods, ran through the woods, and all of a sudden, like a spider web was across the trail, across the path, and all of a sudden that spider web was like wrapped around you, and you kind of just have like freak out moment where you're like peeling off this sticky spider web that you swear you heard it snap, like it's so big that you heard it go twang, or however it went, and all of a sudden it's like stuck on you, and you know that if there's a spider web, there is and somewhere that thing is on you, and you're like, oh, right? And maybe you're alone, and maybe you're not. And if you're not, they might think you're demon-possessed at that point in time, right? And maybe you've had this kind of moment. Like imagine if we were to react to the entanglement of sin in the same way. But the problem is, sometimes we actually just get deeper in it. You remember, maybe you don't, in Lord of the Rings, Frodo in Shelob's lair. Some of you do know this. Like he just gets in the deep cave of Shelob's lair and there's spider webs everywhere. He gets stuck and entangled. That word entangled, it makes me think of that idea of being entangled. I know that this is true, but I don't know how. Some of you know this all too well. You know how sin can entangle you. You know what it's like to step into the web of lust, and it's just a moment, but then it becomes a habit, which becomes an addiction. And now you can't see people as being created in God's image for His pleasure. Oh, you see Him created as an image, but it's for your pleasure. And you're caught, entangled in the web of sin. Or maybe it's lies. I mean, it's just one lie to get out of trouble or to save face, to be impressive. But it's then a lie that you need to continue to spin. Oh, and it's a little piece of art. But you can't find your way out. Maybe the word is addiction. Some of you couldn't even leave it behind. So you brought it with you. It's in your baggage. It's in your mind. It's in your heart. It's still running in your bloodstream. It's still a desire, a thirst, a hunger that you have. And you know what it's like. You know what it's like to be entangled and caught. For some of you, it's a relationship. And I'm not saying that relationships, we've made fun of relationships, leaving room for Jesus, right? I'm not saying relationships are bad, but some relationships are bad. And they're just entangling you. They're not leading you to Jesus. That person is actually leading you away from Jesus. And like a spider on a web that's beckoning you to them, they're not concerned about life for you. They're concerned about what you're providing for them, what you're giving for them. I don't know. For some of you, it's a relationship. That if we ask, what is it that is entangling you, that is keeping you in sin, that is keeping you from Jesus, that is keeping you from running the race, that is like that spider web that sticks and wraps around you, some of you would say, this is what it is. It reminds me, there was a runner, an athlete in 2017, and I saw this video online. You'll see the replay of it. And he's running an 800-meter, and as he's running the 800-meter, he's in first place, and all of a sudden, the surprising happens. If you didn't notice, it's the bungee cord. It's a practice bungee cord that runs across the top of the pole vault competition. You'll see it run again in a replay. And as he was running in first place, that bungee cord shot off of the pole vault, wrapped around his legs, and as a first place runner, it ensnared him, it entangled him. And so all of a sudden, this first place runner, he's running, but boy, he's struggling as he's running. He's really not running the race that he was originally destined to run. You'll see it one more time. And when it comes to this runner, here's what I want to ask. Can you resonate with this in your run? Do you resonate with like, man, I felt like I was running. I felt like I was doing so great. And then sin tripped me up. And some of you feel like you're in this awkward moment where you're trying to run, you're giving a lot of effort, but boy, you're just entangled, you're trapped, and there's really no way you can get out of it. And here the preacher comes and he talks about addiction, and he talks about some of the things I'm struggling with, and all I'm feeling is this frustration. Did you see the athlete at the end of this? He like raises his hand to the ref. He's like, what was I supposed to do? I don't know how many times this clip from this athlete replayed online. I don't know how many times the replays of your failures replay in your mind. I know what's true for me. That I can go back. I don't always want it. Sometimes it just happens in the middle of the night. Memory comes back. And I remember how easily sin trips me up in my run. Tonight, what we really want to do is we want to identify it. And maybe the consequences aren't just like, oh, I guess you got 8th place in a semifinal. Like maybe the consequences of this are a little bit more devastating. One year there was a young lady, and I was a student. I was in high school. So this is going back to like 1997 NYR, okay? So I had the Zach Morris hair, blonde hair, parted down the middle. Can you go there with me? Okay, so this is me. Some of you are like, who's Zach Morris? Okay, I had my hair parted down the middle. Let's just go there. And it was raining at NYR, up the valley from the canteen. I just stood there this morning. There was a tent. A tent in the dark while it was raining had anchor points, anchor ropes that went down to tent stakes. You there with me? You understand what I'm talking about? And then a young lady, she's probably about 14 years old, 14, 15 or so at the time. A young lady decided she was going to run down the hill to go meet up with her friends. It was raining. She was trying to get out of the rain to go to the canteen. And so she started running. Here's the thing. I was standing there, saw what I saw, spike, rope, tent, saw her running, didn't have time to say, hey, there's a rope there. You probably shouldn't run there. It might trip you. She was running downhill. Hit this rope. Became like Wonder Woman, right? She's flying through the air. The gravel here, do you notice how it's not like comfortable to land on? You notice that yet? Lands face forward, arms outstretched, and just glides in the mud down that mountain. I don't know for how many. I'm not going to try to exaggerate it for you. I remember her getting up. And just embarrassment, shame, pain. Some of you came up the valley that way. And now you're like, it's not fair that you bring it up. No. Because tonight's theme, here's the theme. Set your eyes on the throne when you need freedom. Put your eyes on the throne when you need freedom. When you experience what it is to be hindered and when you experience what it is to be entangled. When you suffer the consequences of that sin that entangles you, and you experience the emptiness of what you thought was going to fill you up, you experience the consequences of your addiction, you experience those replays, that shame that happens over and over again. Tonight, what we want to do more than anything, as we look up, is we want to do what Hebrews 12 encourages us to do. Is we want to throw some of these things off. Like we want to be an active participant in this. So in your group time tonight, you're going to receive a card like this. And in your card like this, your sponsors are going to give this to you. What we want you to do is we want you to, like Hebrews says, we want you to identify some of the things that are hindering you and some of the things that are entangling you. Now, sponsors, you might want to repeat that language and remind them of those two categories. And students, you might want to remind one another of those two categories. You might want to right now mentally be writing down some of these things. And you're going to tonight, in group time, write those things down. Then you're going to bring this card back tomorrow night. because Hebrews continues. The good news continues. But at the end of the week, here's my hope for these things, is that like those runners in that half marathon who are taking off the things that are hindering, the things that are getting in the way, keeping them from running the race that they were called to run, is that we take these things and we're throwing these things off. We're saying, I don't need that anymore. If it's a relationship getting in my way, I don't know. If you get broken up with, sorry, not sorry. But if you're getting in the way of someone running after Jesus, then maybe that's what needs to happen. And maybe you brought something with you, it's in your suitcase, and you need to have a conversation with someone. Boy, there's no greater place and no greater time than now to let something go, set it aside, toss it aside, and say, I don't need that anymore. And maybe you're struggling with a sin, and it's been a sin that's been tripping you up, and you're tired. You're like that athlete, you're so frustrated, you're tired. So throw it off to the side. But tell someone about it and have someone help you, because you can't. We heard this morning. You can't do this alone. When you're stuck, when you need freedom, you can't do it alone. 2003, there was a hiker in Utah. This story has been told. You probably heard it. I don't know. This hiker in Utah committed a few errors. He went hiking alone, and he didn't tell anybody where he was at. He, over the course of a few days, found himself trapped. Here's what happened. There was a rock slide. The rock slide, to make a long story short, fell and pinned his arm under a boulder, under a rock. 5 days go by because of this mistake. I'm talking about being hindered. I can't move. Talk about it being entangled. I'm literally entangled. There's nothing I can do to rescue myself from this situation. There's got to be some things I let go of. And here's the story. Using a dull pocket knife, he began to cut away and cut off his own arm. Now we might be like, wow, that's terrible. But here's what I love about the gospel, is it's Jesus. It's Jesus who says, you know what? I'll be the one. I'll be the one to set them free. I want you to hear this. Jesus was bound so that we might be untangled. In the garden, I don't know, can we picture it kind of like this? Garden of Gethsemane. It's outside the city. Jesus is out there praying with his disciples, and he's prayed the prayer, Lord, if there's any other way, Father, if there's any other way, but not my will, but your will be done. If this is what it takes to save them, to give them freedom, if this is what it takes to untangle them from that sin that just keeps tripping them up, the sin that keeps knocking them over, the sin that keeps, bringing them death. Jesus gets up from that prayer. And I've been in this area. I think Jesus could see him coming. This entourage of soldiers, battalion of soldiers, with officials and with a friend. Judas and the soldiers and the officials come into that garden. And Jesus steps forward. He doesn't run away. Judas kisses him on the cheek. And we see Jesus offer his hand. I mean, you know this. He's on the throne. He did not have to allow this to happen. And he allows his hands to be bound. You know where they're going to lead him. I need you to hear it. Jesus was willingly bound so that you can find freedom and be untangled. Tonight, as we sing the next song and the next few songs, we're going to invite you to make a decision, and this invitation will be over the next few nights. And I want you to take it seriously. We started with saying, let's put our eyes on the throne, and I don't want you to have your eyes on me. I want you to have your eyes on Jesus. He's the one that's worthy of looking to. And as we look to the one who was bound so that we can be set free, I want you to ask these questions. These are the decisions we want you to consider. The camp teams are going to come, and they're going to line up here in front. And decision number one is really this. If I've never asked Jesus to help set me free, and I'm considering the decision of following him and asking for his forgiveness, then maybe tonight's the start of a conversation, or maybe it's the end of a conversation where you say, I'm ready to toss this off. I need freedom, and he's the only one who could set you free. You can't do it on your own. Like that runner in the video, he couldn't get, like he was trapped. And maybe that's the decision. I want to follow Jesus. I want the sins to be washed away in baptism. I want a new beginning. I want a fresh start in my race. Man, if that's the decision, I pray you come. I did when I was 10 years old. I know I was young. But I knew the things that were entangling me even at that age. And I'm glad I did. The second decision would be this. Maybe you've been running your race and you made the decision to run after Jesus, but man, sin has a way of, just like that bungee cord in that pole vaulting moment, has a way of kind of launching out into our track and into our playing field, and we're running, we're tripping up again. And maybe your decision tonight is this. I really need to rededicate my life to following after Jesus. I need to make him the main thing, set aside some distractions, maybe even some good things that become the main thing. And I need to rededicate my life to Jesus. Here's the third decision, and then we'll pray, and then we'll be done. Some of you, this will be a place where you say, I'm already running after Jesus, and yeah, I have some of these things, but I'm pursuing him, but I want to call other people to get in this race. I want to be the person on the sideline saying, you can do it! Let me be that person for you tonight. I know I'm not like your dad. I mean, my kids are here too, but can I be there in your race? Put it down. Don't get distracted. You can finish. You can do it. Keep running. We're cheering for you. Let's stand and let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you for the goodness of Jesus. We thank you for your truth. Sometimes that truth is really hard to hear. But God, the truth sets us free. Your word is life. And God, we need to know the truth of our situation. That God, we get so easily distracted like a little kid in a little league playing field. Digging in the sand. Failing to look up. God, help us to set our eyes on you. God, we get tripped up. We stumble. We fall. God, lift us back up. Untangle us from the mess. Set us free to run. God, empower us to run. And God, thank you for Jesus, who ran before us, who set us free. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's stand. If you want to come up front.